At midnight, she discovered an amazing opportunity when a millionaire CEO touched her heart. The diner lights buzzed as Sarah wiped down the last table. Sighing, she glanced at the clock, its hands creeping toward midnight. Just one more hour, she muttered. With her mother battling illness and Jake's curiosity about the world growing by the day, juggling two jobs felt like balancing on a tightrope. But her heart remained steadfast. Each dollar earned brought her family one step closer to a brighter tomorrow. As she cleaned, Sarah's fingers brushed against something hidden beneath a napkin holder. Pulling it out, her breath caught. An old envelope, worn at the edges, graced her palm like a treasure from the past. Inside lay a glimmering golden ticket, unclaimed, untouched, a pass to the charity gala hosted by billionaire David Hayes, a man known for pulling others up from rock bottom. Her heart raced, hope blossoming like wildflowers in spring. Dreaming of stepping into a world lit by chandeliers and filled with laughter, she envisioned wearing a red dress, confident and radiant. She could almost hear the clinking of glasses, smell the perfume mingling with rich food, and feel Jake's bright eyes watching her as she crossed the threshold into elegance. The chance to attend felt like destiny tugging at her sleeve. The night of the gala arrived, and nervous excitement danced in her chest as she slipped on an old dress that had survived her childhood, its fabric whispering tales of simpler days. Stepping into the community center, Sarah's heart sank. Elegantly dressed people glided past her, their laughter ringing like distant chimes. Feeling out of place, she almost turned to leave, but determination surged within her. She wasn't just a waitress, she was a daughter and a big sister. So, she forged ahead. Conversations fluttered around her, laughter rippled through the air, and for a moment, she forgot her worries. That was until whispers echoed nearby, hints of her working-class roots tainting the atmosphere like rain clouds. "Who does she think she is?" someone scoffed. Just when despair threatened to engulf her, David Hayes appeared, grandeur personified, yet a warmth shone through his polished exterior. With a genuine smile, he approached. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, building bridges over shared struggles. As they spoke, their worlds seemed less apart. She confessed her dreams of becoming a nurse, and he shared tales of his own humble beginnings, their hopes intertwining like vines up a sturdy trellis. Before they could explore this connection further, a scandalous rumor swept through the crowd. The whispers grew louder, drowning their aspirations in doubt. Sarah's heart pounded, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Hadn't she just opened up? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." David felt the tension crackle in the air and turned to face the whispers, his jaw set firm. If he could stand against the stigma of judgment, could she brave the storm of scandal? As he defended her, words spilling out like a lifeline, Sarah realized this moment could change everything. Yet, as the night wore on, the question hung heavy: could their bond survive the churning tides of prejudice? Would love and friendship be enough to bridge the divide? Uncertainty gnawed at her heart as she stood there, ready to confront whatever the world threw their way. The night was far from over, and so was their journey, a new chapter just waiting to unfold. The laughter and music faded as David's voice cut through the murmur of the crowd. He stood tall, the embodiment of confidence as he addressed those who dared to question Sarah's presence. "She's here for a reason," he said, the passion in his voice drawing attention. "We all have stories worth sharing." A rush of warmth enveloped Sarah. It wasn't just his words, it was the way he made her feel seen. For once, she mattered. Yet, the whispers didn't subside entirely. Some rolled their eyes, others exchanged smug glances. The tension in the room was palpable, but David's unwavering gaze anchored her, reminding Sarah she wasn't alone. Just then, the gala's host stepped onto the stage, his booming voice an abrupt reminder of the gathering's true purpose. The more privileged guests turned their attention to him, eager to hear words they hoped would embolden their status. But with each proclamation of success, Sarah felt her heart sink further. The chasm between their lives felt insurmountable again. "Please, take a seat," he said cheerfully, motioning to the tables laden with food and sparkling drinks. David guided Sarah to a table near the front, the spotlight casting a gentle glow on them. As she sat down, a wave of dizziness washed over her. Foggy memories of her mother's routine hospital visits and Jake's school dreams crept back into her mind. This extravagant world reminded her of everything she sought to escape and yet desperately wanted to embrace. "How do you feel?" David asked, his tone softening as he leaned closer. "Like a fish out of water," she admitted, biting her lip. She glanced around, her heart racing. "But I'm tired of feeling like that." His eyes sparked with determination. "Then let us flip the narrative tonight." A hint of a smile crept onto Sarah's face. It was small yet powerful. They toasted to a new beginning, laughter mingling with the soft notes of the string quartet playing in the background. In that moment, the world dimmed, and it felt like pure magic was in the air. As the evening progressed, they swapped stories of ambition, of dreams caught in the web of fate. Each tale seemed to chip away at their insecurities, connecting them even deeper. But every time someone in the room voiced another snicker, the air grew thick with doubt. Suddenly, a figure from the back of the room moved through the throng and approached their table. It was Lila, a socialite Sarah recognized from her high school days, her expression dripping with disdain. "David, darling," Lila chirped, her eyes scanning Sarah with barely concealed judgment. "I didn't realize you were slumming it tonight." Sarah felt the words land like ice in her gut. For a moment, she faltered, her confidence wavering under Lila's piercing gaze. Could David continue to champion her when faced with such blatant disdain? But then, David's expression shifted. He leaned forward, placing a protective hand over Sarah's. "Lila, I'm helping someone who deserves to be here just as much as anyone else. Our past doesn't define our future." The chords of disbelief echoed as Lila opened her mouth to protest, but before she could speak, a trembling cheer arose from a nearby table, drawing all eyes. It was a group of people who worked at local charities, the heart of the community, supporters of David's initiatives. "We love your compassion, David. Keep it real," they shouted, igniting a chorus of supportive claps. Sarah's heart soared, and for just a moment, she felt invincible. But as Lila's venomous stare lingered, uncertainty crept back. Could she truly belong in a world that inherently questioned her worth? The thought rolled over her like a wave, sending her pulse racing. As the gala continued, Sarah realized she was on the precipice of something beautiful yet terrifying. Would she seize this moment, even when shadows loomed? Determination welled up inside her. The night wasn't just a gala. It was a turning point, a chance to redefine herself. With David at her side, she braced herself for the battles ahead, knowing their journey was only beginning. What she didn't expect was that David's next revelation might change the course of everything they were building together. Before she could catch her breath, David leaned in closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. "There's something I need to tell you." David's voice hung between them, a secret that felt charged with possibility. Sarah met his gaze, her heart drumming in her chest. What could he possibly have to say that would tip the scales of this night from awkward to electrifying? "Sarah," he began, the seriousness in his tone stirring her curiosity, "I've been working on a project that I think could really change lives. It's something dear to my heart." He looked around, making sure no one was eavesdropping. His brows furrowed slightly as if he were summoning the courage for what came next. "I want you to be part of it." Her breath caught in her throat. "Me?" she asked, the confusion clouding her thoughts. She hadn't come here seeking anything except an escape from her past, and now he was offering her a glimpse into something entirely different. Yes. His sincerity radiated with every syllable. I need someone with personal experience, someone who understands struggle and resilience like you do. I'm starting a nonprofit focused on helping families in difficult situations just like where you came from. I know you can bring valuable insight. Sarah's stomach twisted with a blend of joy and worry. A nonprofit? David believed she could add value? His belief felt like a warm blanket, shielding her from the sharp edges of doubt that had defined her life until now. But a nonprofit? Did she have what it took? She stammered, feeling the weight of his gaze on her. I don't even know where to start. How can I help? Just by being you, he replied, tilting his head as though he were watching her unravel the knot of her insecurities. We all have different beginnings, but we can all make a difference. I see that spark in you, and I want to help you channel it. Before Sarah could respond, the gala buzz was interrupted by the host announcing a charity auction. The room brightened momentarily, and Sarah felt the shift in energy. It was a distraction. She stood on the brink of something that could reshape her narrative, but then reality settled in the shadows in the form of judgmental stares and whispers still surrounded her. Lila's laughter rang out across the room, and it stabbed at Sarah's growing resolve. Can she even handle that? She said, the words sharp, cutting through the moment like glass. David's grip tightened around Sarah's hand, grounding her. The ball was in her court now. Did she run from this opportunity or dive headfirst into the risk of it all? David, she whispered, urgency creeping into her voice. What if I mess it up? What if I'm not good enough? He smiled, a bright light that chased away the darkness closing in. You won't know until you try. Everyone stumbles before they find their footing. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. Just take that first step. The auctioneer's voice surged through the crowd, and Sarah felt the momentum swell. This night could ignite a series of changes not just for her, but for others too. The path ahead was blurry, yet David offered a guiding light. Okay, she finally said, her voice rising with newfound conviction. I'll do it. I want to help. Just as those words left her lips, the music shifted into a rousing crescendo, and the crowd erupted in applause for the next auction item. It was just noise, but to Sarah, it felt like the world had shifted. She had made a choice, one that filled her with empowerment flush against the doubt that always nipped at her heels, but as she turned to share her excitement with David, she noticed his face. It was shadowed with a storm. What's wrong? She asked, her heart sinking again. He hesitated, glancing over her shoulder. Something's happening, literally. The room buzzed with murmurs as whispers of a sudden crisis flowed through the crowd. Sarah's excitement collided with dread. Whatever was coming next might change everything she just committed to. What had she just stepped into? The lights flickered, and David's expression hardened. We need to find out what this is about. Sarah felt her stomach lurch as the lights pulsed ominously. Panic flickered in the air, threading its way through the crowd like a live wire. David's grip on her hand was firm, but she could sense his unease, a quiet storm brewing behind those steady eyes. Stay close, he said, his voice low but urgent. They maneuvered through the throng, which was beginning to swell with anxious whispers. Shadows danced across the room, and Sarah's heart raced. What was happening? As they reached the edge of the crowd, Sarah spotted the source of the commotion. A figure stood on a small platform, raising a hand to quell the growing din. It was the host, but tonight he seemed anything but charismatic. His face was pale, and his voice trembled as he spoke. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We've just been informed that a fire alarm has been triggered in the building. Gasps washed over the crowd, and Sarah's heart plummeted. Thoughts of a chaotic exit stirred in her mind. From the way David's jaw tightened, he was thinking the same thing. Do we need to evacuate? Someone shouted from the back. Please stay calm, said the host, trying to maintain order. We're looking into the matter. Follow the staff's instructions and stay together. David turned to Sarah, the warmth in his eyes now replaced with urgency. We should head toward the exit while we can. Just then, the lights flickered again and fell completely dark. A collective gasp surged through the crowd, and the atmosphere shifted, a jarring mixture of fear and adrenaline. In the pitch black, Sarah felt the pulse of her heart overpowering the silence. She clutched David's hand tightly, unwilling to let go. "Okay, don't panic," David said, his voice steady amidst the chaos. "Just keep moving. Let us find the nearest exit." As they stumbled forward, Sarah felt people brush past them, the raw energy of anxiety heightened by the unknown. She whispered a quiet affirmation to herself. She had made a choice to help, to believe in her worth, and she wouldn't let fear silence her now. "Stay focused on my voice," David encouraged, leading her through the thickening crowd. Suddenly, they emerged into the faint glow of emergency exit signs. Relief coursed through her. Maybe they'd make it out unscathed, but just as they reached the door, they halted at the sight of an older gentleman, clearly distressed. He was unable to move, an expression of confusion etched across his face as he glanced frantically between the crowd and the darkened hall. "Sir, are you okay?" Sarah asked, stepping toward him instinctively. "I can't find my wife," he stammered, voice trembling. "She was right beside me, and now." Her gut twisted. She felt an overwhelming urge to help, yet panic crept back into the edges of her mind. What if she couldn't handle this? What if they were in real danger? David seemed to sense her hesitation. His eyes met hers, bright and unwavering, and she recalled their earlier conversation. "Go," he urged, his voice steady. "I'll help him. You find the nearest exit and call for help." "No," Sarah protested, her heart racing at the thought of leaving him. "We can't just abandon him. We need to make a choice." David insisted, stepping closer. "You're stronger than you think. You can help this man. Please, do what you do best and trust your instincts." In that heartbeat, Sarah had a decision to make. The urgency of the moment threatened to drown her, yet David's unwavering confidence ignited a flicker of hope within her. "Okay," she finally said, taking a deep breath. "I'll help him find his wife." As she moved toward the gentleman, steeling herself for the task ahead, Sarah felt a new clarity wash over her. This was her chance to step into the person she could become. She could be more than just her past. But then, the lights flared back on, and the crowd erupted into chaos once more. Just as she began devising a plan, a chilling voice echoed through the venue. "Stay put. This is not a drill." Sarah's heartbeat quickened. What exactly had she just stepped into? The chilling voice hung in the air, heavy with urgency. Fear rippled through the throng as the crowd collectively recoiled at the unknown threat looming over them. Hyper-awareness flooded Sarah's senses. The lights came back on, but the familiar atmosphere of excitement and glamour had twisted into something ominous. A murmur of confusion and dread swept through the gathering like a gust of wind knocking leaves from a tree. "Everyone, stay calm and remain where you are. Security is on its way." The voice crackled through the speakers again, stronger this time, demanding immediate compliance. The older gentleman beside her looked frail and fragile, as if he might collapse under the weight of his panic. "What should we do?" he asked, his voice quivering, eyes darting in every direction. "Let us find your wife," Sarah replied, forcing confidence into her tone. "Can you remember where you last saw her?" He nodded slightly, gripping his glasses tighter as if they might shatter under pressure. "Near the bar, just a few feet away." Before she could formulate a plan, the crowd shifted, almost as if it were a living being surging toward an instinctual goal: safety. David's face appeared out of the mass, his own apprehension replaced by an unwavering determination. "Stay with him, Sarah. I'll check the bar." "David, wait!" she called out, panic rising once more. But he was already lost in the sea of bodies, moving quickly toward the bar area, a far-off island amidst the chaos. "Let us go," she said to the older gentleman, tugging gently at his arm. "We'll head that way. Maybe she's still there." They navigated through the now chaotic venue. People shoved past them, some teetering on the edge of outright hysteria. A woman nearby cried out, her voice cracking, "What's happening?" Sarah felt her heart pounding against her ribs. Every step was a reminder of the danger they faced. The older man followed her, hesitantly at first, and then with determination. The bar was in sight, just ahead. The sudden rush of hope lifted her spirits. Just a little further, she encouraged him, trying to mask her own rising anxiety. "But what if she's not there?" he stammered, his eyes wide and lost in despair. "She has to be," Sarah insisted, her voice calm and strong against the panic swirling around them. "We just need to look." As they reached the bar, her heart sank. The area was filled with shouts, glasses shattered on the floor, and the faint hint of smoke. Sarah's thoughts raced. Where could she be? Moments felt like hours as she scanned the crowd frantically. Then her eyes landed on something, a glimmer of familiar gold. "Sir! Over there!" She pointed, bounding toward a frail woman whose scarf had been thrown carelessly around her neck. The woman's face was marked by fear, but her eyes were resolute. "Margaret!" the older gentleman cried, rushing toward her. Lost in the euphoria of their reunion, Sarah breathed a sigh of relief. As they embraced, it felt as if the frightful atmosphere around them faded just a bit, the orange glow of the emergency light still flickering, but then a loud crash echoed from the opposite side of the room, splitting through her moment of triumph. The crowd gasped again, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It felt like the precarious balance of hope and despair was teetering once more. "What was that?" Margaret whispered, eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows adjacent to the stage. The crowd turned toward it, and chaos resumed, the energy shifting. "What now?" Sarah wondered, a foreboding clenching her stomach like a vice. That voice resonated once more, piercing through the din, "You're in more danger than you realize." At that moment, Sarah felt an uneasy twist in her gut. What lay ahead? As her heart raced again, she realized that while she had begun to find her footing in this storm, the bigger challenge was still waiting just beyond the edge of safety. What exactly was happening in the venue, and how could they emerge from this night intact? The crowd's energy crackled like static electricity, tension hanging thick in the air. Sarah's eyes darted around, struggling to make sense of the chaos while clinging to the fragile hope that everyone would be safe. The figure emerging from the shadows was cloaked in a mix of anxiety and determination, his presence dominating the scene. "Everyone, listen." The voice rang out again. An eerie calm had settled, the earlier panic momentarily replaced by a morbid curiosity. "You must stay inside the venue." Sarah grabbed onto Margaret's hand, their fingers intertwining tightly. "We have to stay together," she whispered, trying to steady the older woman. A flicker of resilience sparked in Margaret's eye, but it quickly vanished, replaced by uncertainty. "David," Sarah started, but the thought slipped from her like a whisper in the wind. She didn't know where he had gone or if he was even safe. Panic licked at her throat, but she swallowed hard, forcing her mind to remain clear. David could take care of himself. She needed to focus on the situation before them. The figure stepped forward, a tall man with sharp features highlighted by the sporadic flickering lights. The crowd leaned in, hungry for answers. "I know fear grips you now," he said, his voice measured yet firm. "But you are not alone. I'm here to help." With every word he spoke, his authority grew. People began to nod, their fear morphing into something resembling trust. Sarah felt her body tense, unsure if she was ready to accept this stranger's silence or if he was genuinely here to assist. "I understand you've heard some unsettling things tonight. But I assure you, if you remain calm and trust in our security team, everything will be all right," he continued, lifting his hand slightly as he addressed them all. This event has been compromised, likely by a group unfamiliar to the majority of you. Sarah's heart sank further. Compromised? What did that mean? In her mind, images of danger began to swirl, and she could almost hear the echoes of distant sirens. She needed a plan. What should we do? She murmured, her voice barely audible over the low chatter of the crowd. Stay where you are until instructed otherwise, the man said, his eyes searching the room for any sign of resistance. Further instructions will be given shortly. In that moment, a flicker of movement drew her attention from the far side of the room. David appeared, weaving through the throng, eyes wide with urgency. Relief flooded her chest, but it was quickly overshadowed by a new wave of panic as his worried expression registered with her. Sarah! He shouted, his voice barely cutting through the queasy murmur of the crowd. He reached her almost breathless. I heard something. Is it safe? She interrupted, gripping his arm tightly, desperate to protect the fragile glimmer of hope they had before the darkness tried to swallow them again. That he shook his head. Not yet. It's worse than we thought. What do we do? She pressed, feeling the weight of the older couple beside her. David's eyes darkened, reflecting the uncertainty pooling in her stomach. All we can do is stay put for now, he said, glancing toward the imposing figure that still commanded the room. But something doesn't feel right. The voice returned, cutting through their frantic thoughts. We need volunteers to help with security. Those who are willing to assist, step forward now. A ripple of uncertainty coursed through the crowd. Some shuffled back, but out of the corner of her eye, Sarah saw a few brave souls raise their hands. Should we? She asked David, a tingle of adrenaline sparking through her veins. I don't know if it's the right choice, but if we stay here, we might not be safe either. What if this is our chance to do something? She countered, with uncertainty weighing heavily upon them. They shared a look, a silent understanding that they could either face the unknown or be consumed by the fear around them. As Sarah mirrored the courage mirrored in David's eyes, the decision became clearer. Let us do it, she said. As they moved toward the front, an unfamiliar thrill bubbled within her, the kind that only comes at the precipice of something important. To step into the fold of the hero or merely remain a frightened bystander felt like a choice larger than themselves. But just as they began to mobilize, a loud sound erupted from backstage, tearing apart any notions of safety and sending shockwaves through the crowd. What now? David breathed, tension boiling once more. Suddenly, lights began to flicker erratically, and the power surged, leaving them suspended between light and shadow. Just as Sarah opened her mouth to scream, a new realization struck, an awareness that whatever was about to unfold could change everything. What else lay in wait, hiding just beyond the edge of their embrace of courage? The tension in the air thickened, an electric buzz of uncertainty that made every instinct scream for safety. Sarah felt her heart race, lump in her throat tightening with every flicker of the lights. What was happening backstage? Shadows danced ominously, and a low rumble echoed through the venue as fear pulsated through the crowd like a living entity. Stay close, David whispered, his voice tense but steady, both of them instinctively drawing nearer to each other. With each step they took toward the front, the atmosphere felt more volatile. Those who had responded to the call for volunteers surged forward, expressions ranging from fear to determination. Did you hear that? Someone behind Sarah murmured, nervously scanning the chaotic scene. What could it be? Anxiety rippled around them, fueling the unease that had already settled deep in Sarah's gut. The imposing figure before them watched, assessing the growing crowd of volunteers. He stepped forward, his silhouette cutting a striking figure against the strobe-like lights. Please, remain calm. We need focused hands, he called out, voice projecting authority, grounded in purpose. Her breath hitching, Sarah wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe they were safe and that bravery could eclipse fear. But he felt like yet another shadow, an unfamiliar presence, reminding her of everything outside these walls that felt threatening and unknown. the audience grew restless, whispers swirling into a frenzy. Suddenly, the lights exploded into darkness, plunging them into a deep void. Gasps erupted around them. In the pitch blackness, Sarah squeezed David's arm. "What's happening?" She whimpered, her voice trembling, an echo against the silence. Then, a spotlight flickered into life, casting an eerie glow across the room. It illuminated a figure on the stage, someone she didn't recognize. A woman. Tall, with piercing eyes that radiated confidence. "We have no time to waste," she shouted, her voice cutting through the fear as if it were a blade. "What's out there is coming for you all. But we can fight back." A wave of energy surged through the room, ignition igniting fear-infused courage. The woman continued, "I need you all to stay strong. Each of you holds a piece of what we need to overcome this." Sarah's heart swelled at the thought. What could she possibly contribute? But David's hand tightened around hers, and she felt a flicker of that courage spark inside her. "We can do this," he said, drawing her gaze. "We need to fight for each other." Just as they regained a semblance of focus, the shattering sounds of glass echoed from backstage. The crowd collectively inhaled, hearts pounding in unison. This is it, Sarah thought. The moment stretched out, thick with anticipation and fear of what would come next. Then, as if by fate, the lights flickered back on, revealing panic painted on every face. The stage was silhouetted by an ominous shadow, something human, yet terrifying. Sarah felt the air around her cool, dread curling around her heart. "Get ready!" the woman shouted, and suddenly the crowd was alive. They surged forward, hearts thundering with a united purpose, ready to face the unknown. Just then, a sharp cry pierced the air, grabbing everyone's attention. David spun around, eyes wide. "Did you hear that? It came from over there." Sarah's stomach dropped. Were they truly ready for whatever was casting a dark cloud over their bravery? This isn't just chaos. This is about to become our reality, she thought, adrenaline rushing through her veins. But was she prepared to face it? Before she could let the weight of her fears anchor her, she took a deep breath. Whatever was lurking in the shadows, she knew they had a choice now. To fight or to flee. "Stay together," Sarah shouted, steeling herself against the coming storm. And as they braced for impact, one thought echoed through her mind: what had she stumbled into? The room trembled with uncertainty, tensions snapping like a taut wire ready to break. Whatever happened next could change everything for all of them. Would they stand united, or would the fear shatter their resolve? As the spotlight shone brighter, the crowd's energy morphed into something tangible, a collective heartbeat pulsing in rhythm with the chaos surrounding them. Sarah took a step forward, gripping David's hand tighter as they readied themselves to confront whatever lay ahead. Her pulse matched the thrum of the people around her, a guitar string plucked, resonating with anxiety and a strange sense of anticipation. The shadow on stage shifted. It was hard to tell what it was now, but Sarah could feel its weight in the air, a mix of danger and an almost magnetic pull. A few brave souls stepped closer, encouraged by the powerful woman at the helm. The noise of whispers faded as she spoke again, louder this time, her voice crackling with raw authority. "Your fears are a part of this. Use them. Channel that energy. We only win if we stay together." Sarah glanced into David's eyes, searching for reassurance. The moment hung heavy between them, laced with unspoken fears. "What if we can't do it?" The words danced on her lips, but she swallowed them down. They had already come so far, faced so much. Could backing out now really be an option? Then, without warning, the shadow emerged fully from backstage, a creature unlike anything Sarah had ever seen. It twisted and shimmered, a grotesque mix of parts that seemed to be taken from nightmares. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a gust of wind, pushing her back, but Sarah stood her ground. "We can't let it break us." The woman's voice rang out again, a clarion call that cut through the fear. "Remember your strength. Suddenly, the crowd surged forward, driven by a primal instinct to protect each other. David pulled Sarah along, not letting go as they were swept into the tide. Surrounded by strangers turned partners in this unexpected battle, fear began to morph into something else, something almost freeing. As they moved, Sarah noticed others gathering in groups, forming circles of strength. People clasped hands, offering hope and connection. A family of strangers bonded by circumstance. She felt a warmth spread through her heart, igniting a flicker of courage. "I won't back down," she thought fiercely, each word pounding with certainty. The creature lunged forward from the shadows, causing screams to erupt. But instead of retreating, those close to Sarah pressed on, shouting encouragement, refusing to yield to despair. "Push!" Someone yelled, and she found herself shouting it too, her voice mingling in the cacophony of determination. "Force it back!" A wave of adrenaline coursed through her. She was a part of this. Together, they pushed against the creature, their united front growing stronger even as the odds felt insurmountable. In that moment, Sarah felt transformed. Each pulse of collective might built a wall against fear. It wasn't just about survival, it was about fighting for each other. She found herself facing the creature, refusing to let it claim her or those around her. But just as their momentum began to shift, an unexpected crack split the atmosphere. The ground trembled, sending vibrations through the crowd. What came next made Sarah's heart pound even harder. A booming voice echoed through the venue, "You think your unity is enough?" It was low, menacing, shaking her very core. The crowd drew back, anxiety gnashing at their resolve. "What do you want from us?" Sarah shouted defiantly, feeling the weight of 1,000 eyes on her. A challenge hung in the air, and she knew it was now or never, but the voice laughed, a harsh sound that reverberated through the venue like icy water splashed on heated skin. "I want to see what you're really made of." And as the lights flickered, the weight of that challenge loomed over them, pressing down like a vice. What were they truly prepared to face? Behind the bravado, had they underestimated the foe lurking in the dark? Sarah's heart raced again. What had they awakened in this fight? The stakes, their very existence, hung in the balance. The next move could cost them everything. Would they rise together or crumble under the weight of despair? The ground shook beneath them as Sarah's pulse quickened, fear and determination waging war within her. Around her, the faces of strangers twisted with anxiety, each pulse of the crowd echoing her own erratic heartbeat. David's grip tightened on her hand, a lifeline in the swelling tide of uncertainty. The creature loomed, its grotesque form pulsating with malice, yet an electric charge crackled through the crowd, an unspoken vow that they would stand their ground. "Don't listen to it." A voice rang out to her left, fierce and unwavering. It was a young man with tears in his eyes, his raw spirit igniting hope. "We're stronger than this. Together." Echoes of agreement surged through the congregation. A wave of voices filled the air, pushing against the creature's oppressive presence. "Together. Together," they chanted, each repetition layering strength upon strength, like bricks piled high to shield their hearts from despair. But the voice from the dark chuckled again, this time low and sinister. "You think your unity can protect you? Your bond means nothing to me." With a flick of its gnarled fingers, the atmosphere thickened, tension wrapping around them like a noose. The laughter reverberated, a sound designed to instill doubt. "Sarah!" David yelled, his eyes intense as he tried to rally her spirit. "We fight for each other. Remember, this is our moment. Let us show them who we are." Nerves thrummed in her stomach. He was right. She could feel the warmth of their connection like a beacon within. Instinctively, she lifted her chin, searching beyond the horrid spectacle before them. She began to raise her voice, turning their fear into something tangible. "We face our fear. We embrace our strength. We are here, and we will not back down." Slowly, the chant shifted, rippling through the crowd like a tidal wave. "We will not back down." Each voice reinforced her resolve, ringing defiantly against the creature's taunts. But the creature responded with an unfathomable shift. In a blink, it lunged towards a group forming at the edge of the crowd. Panic spiraled, but that tiny moment drew a line. Without thinking, Sarah and David surged forward, pushing through the throng, hearts racing, determination coursing through them. "No!" she screamed, her heart bursting with the weight of urgency and bravery. They could not falter, not now, not when they were so close. People turned, pulling together, forming a protective barrier around the vulnerable ones. Hands clasped in strength, barriers built by people who had never met before that moment but now locked arms against the nightmare. Each face showed a blend of fear and fierce resistance. This was their home. They would not let darkness sweep it away. With every ounce of her being, Sarah channeled the energy surging through the crowd, allowing it to fuel her as the creature launched itself against their line. She could feel the panic slipping as they pushed back, unyielding, the power of their unity surging forth like a battle cry, but just when victory felt within reach, the creature paused, and the air crackled with anticipation. "Ah, but what if I showed you your greatest fears?" it hissed, eyes narrowing. "What if I exposed your deepest insecurities?" The lights dimmed, casting shadows that twisted around them, each heartbeat echoing louder in the silence that followed. Sarah's stomach dropped. Would their resolve hold firm against what they feared most? "Stand strong." David's shout rose above the growing darkness. And in that moment, Sarah was struck by the realization of what they'd all been fighting for, not just survival, but the promise of hope and the beauty of connection. Would it be enough, though? As the shadows lengthened and tension hung thick in the air, she wondered if they were truly ready to face the truth buried in the depths of their own hearts. The creature's sinister grin widened, a threat lurking behind it. "Let us see what you make of your fears." And as the air crackled with anticipation, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if they were truly prepared for the battle raging within. The tension in the room seemed to hold its breath as darkness began to swallow them whole. Sarah's heart raced. Fear gripped her, but she refused to let it escape her lips. She was not alone. She felt David beside her, his warm hand holding hers like a shield, a reminder that they were connected in this fight. And in that moment, she turned toward the crowd, their faces illuminated by a shared resolve. "You found your strength, Sarah." David's voice rang out, cutting through the thick air. "Remember, fear cannot dictate our future." As the creature's sinister form writhed in the shadows, Sarah drew upon the warmth of the crowd and the truth of their shared experience. Together, she shouted, rallying the voices that echoed back to her. "We face this as one, our fears, our dreams, our lives intertwined." From every corner of the venue, a chorus roared back. "Together! Together!" Suddenly, the air invigorated with energy, as hands clasped tighter, shoulders pressed closer, their communal spirit pulsing against the looming dark. The creature recoiled, its grotesque form quivering at the rising tide of unified strength. "You think this chant will save you?" it hissed, its voice drenched in disdain. But Sarah and David pressed on, drowning out the creature's taunts with their voices. "We will not break. We will rise." As their words echoed through the venue, the shadows flickered, reflecting the collective determination. Faces illuminated by the soft light, each one telling a story of resilience, of struggle, of transcending their own limits. Suddenly, laughter erupted from the crowd, transforming fear into a vibrant current of courage. Those who had once felt lost now stood united, illuminated by shared purpose. The creature faltered. It seemed to shrink beneath the weight of their alliance, its menacing glow dimming in the powerful atmosphere of hope. "What is this sorcery?" it thundered, a mixture of panic and rage threading its voice. "You cannot possibly believe you can defeat me." "Believe that we already have," Sarah replied defiantly, feeling every ounce of belief radiate from her heart and spread through the audience like sparks catching fire. With that, they charged forward, a wave of humanity, weaving through the shadows that the creature had cast. "Push!" David yelled, and they surged as one, backed by the strength they had built together. I can feel it. Sarah called out, exhilaration flooding through her. We are bigger than our fears. We are stronger together. In one final push, they clashed against the creature, a palpable explosion of light and sound that erupted as their voices melded into one. The ground quaked beneath them, shaking away the doubts and fears that had clung to them for too long. And then, in a blinding flash, the darkness fragmented, bursting like a bubble under the strain of their collective might. The creature screamed a wail that echoed through the hall, its silhouette dissolving into wisps of smoke that faded into nothingness. As silence embraced the venue, a renewed energy pulsed through the air. Sarah looked around. Breathless people were smiling, tears of relief and joy shining in their eyes. They had bound together under the weight of their fears and emerged stronger, braver, and united. David turned to her, his triumphant grin mirrored on her face. We did it! He shouted, wrapping his arms around her in a tight embrace. She felt every worry, every fear lift from her, carried away by the bonds they had forged in that harrowing moment. Their community, once fractured by judgment and stigma, now stood together, grasping at the promise of new beginnings. The realization settled in: this wasn't just an end, it was a beginning. A chance to step boldly toward the lives they envisioned, together, sharing their stories and dreams. As the low hum of voices rose again, she took David's hand, heart swelling. They would fight not just for themselves, but for every person who felt lost or unworthy. It was time to weave hope back into the fabric of their lives. Tonight, we write a new chapter, Sarah declared to those around her, drawing them in. Together. And as cheers erupted, filling the space with renewed vibrancy, she knew they could face whatever came next. Each person mattered, every voice mattered, together. Don't wait. You need to subscribe now to the channel to be part of more inspiring journeys like this one. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm. Comment with your feelings about this breathtaking transformation, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this power of togetherness. This is the moment to show your support. Don't let this story end here.